Listen to me. Life does not give you what you wish for. It does not bend to your hopes, your idle dreams, or your half-hearted attempts. Life bends only to demand. History has always proven this truth. The great builders, the dreamers, the leaders, the inventors, they all stood before the same universe you and I stand in now. And where the majority whisper their requests like beggars at the gates, these rare few commanded with conviction. They demanded their destiny. And the universe, reluctant at first, had no choice but to surrender. Thomas Edison did not ask the world for light politely. He demanded it. He failed thousands of times, and each failure was not a retreat, but a declaration. I will not leave this battlefield until victory is mine. Andrew Carnegie did not wait for wealth to trickle into his hands. He demanded fortune by training his mind to think in terms of empire when others thought in wages. Henry Ford did not ask permission to put the world on wheels. He demanded an idea so bold that even his own engineers called him mad. And yet, because his demand was absolute, iron bent, engines roared, and a revolution was born. You see, bro, life is a mirror. It reflects not your wishes, but your level of certainty. And certainty is born when your mind, heart, and spirit fuse into one unshakable will. Weak desires create weak results. A timid request produces nothing but silence. But when you demand, when you decide that nothing will be accepted except victory, suddenly, unseen forces begin to move in your favor. The truth is this: every human being is born with the same raw clay. Some mold into greatness. Others leave it unshaped, untouched, wasted. What makes the difference? Not talent, not luck, not privilege. It is the intensity of the demand you place upon yourself and upon life. But most people, they don't demand. They settle. They whisper. They accept crumbs when they could claim kingdoms. They repeat the same days, the same habits, the same excuses, convincing themselves that circumstances are stronger than choice. But let me tell you, no chain is stronger than a mind that refuses to be bound. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin with nothing. No wealth, no status, no advantage. But he demanded something more. He demanded wisdom from books when no one around him could even read. He demanded purpose from pain, leadership from suffering, and when the storm of a divided nation threatened to shatter everything, he stood unbroken, because his demand was larger than his fear. And that is the challenge before you, right now, in this very moment. What are you demanding from life? Not what you're wishing for, not what you're saying in casual conversation, not the lies you tell yourself about someday. I mean the real demand, the fire that refuses to be extinguished, the vision you are willing to sweat for, bleed for, sacrifice for. Do you demand health? Then your body must become the temple you discipline daily. Do you demand wealth? Then your mind must be trained to see opportunity where others only see risk. Do you demand greatness? Then your soul must refuse mediocrity like a king refuses scraps. The law of the universe is brutal but simple. You do not get what you want. You get what you must have, what you insist on, what you pursue with relentless faith until it bows to your will. So ask yourself, have you been living like a beggar, or have you been living like a creator? Have you been waiting for life to hand you blessings? Or are you stepping into the arena and claiming them? Because understand this, life owes you nothing, and yet it will give you everything if you demand it with unwavering belief. The world you live in is not fixed. It is not a rigid stone carved by fate. It is clay, soft, malleable, and it waits in the hands of the one who dares to shape it. But here's the danger. If you do not shape it, someone else will. If you do not demand your vision, society will demand your obedience. If you do not step forward with clarity, the world will drag you along in confusion. That is why so many live lives of quiet desperation. They let their days be written by forces outside themselves. The man who wakes up and says, "I must succeed," finds a way. The man who wakes up and says, "I hope it gets better," waits forever. Napoleon Hill said it plainly. Definiteness of purpose is the starting point of all achievement. A mind without direction is like a ship without a rudder. It drifts, tossed by every wave, every wind, every storm. But the moment you demand clarity, the moment you fix your inner compass, The tides of life begin to serve you instead of drown you. Think about it. Every empire, every innovation, every fortune, every masterpiece was first born as a demand for clarity. The Wright brothers demanded flight when the world insisted man was not made to leave the ground. Walt Disney demanded imagination come to life when others saw only swamps and bankrupt dreams. Steve Jobs demanded beauty in machines when others were content with function. You see, clarity is not optional. It is law. Without it, you become a slave to distraction, a victim of doubt, a prisoner of other people's opinions. But when you demand clarity, when you say, asterisk, this is who I am, this is where I am going, this is what I will build or die trying, asterisk, life itself bends. Doors open, people appear, circumstances rearrange. But let's be real, bro, clarity alone is not enough. A clear vision without discipline is just a fantasy. Dreams without action rot into regret, and regret is the heaviest chain a human can ever wear. Discipline is the bridge. Discipline is the proof that your demand is real. Anyone can daydream about wealth. Anyone can wish for success. But the one who rises at dawn while the world sleeps, the one who studies when others are entertained, the one who trains when others are lazy, that is the one who proves their demand with blood, sweat, and sacrifice. Look back at history. Every name we remember, every figure carved into the stone of time, they were disciplined beyond comprehension. Edison tested thousands of filaments, every failure a testimony of relentless discipline. Carnegie worked his way from a poor telegraph boy to the steel king of America because he disciplined his mind to think like an owner long before he became one. Lincoln disciplined himself to study law by candlelight in the dirt of poverty. Discipline is the crown jewel of demand, because life will test you. The moment you declare your demand, obstacles will rise. The moment you say, I must, the universe will whisper back, prove it. And every setback, every rejection, every delay will ask you one question. How badly do you really want it? Most quit, most crumble, most lower their demands because resistance exposes their weakness. But the rare few, those who understand this principle, use resistance as proof they are on the right path. They know pressure is not punishment. Pressure is the birthplace of power. Imagine a diamond. For years, it is nothing but black carbon buried in darkness. But pressure, intense, unrelenting pressure, transforms it into brilliance. That is you, your challenges, your struggles, your sleepless nights, your failures. They are not curses. They are the furnace where your demand is tested, where your will is purified, where your greatness is born. So do not curse the struggle. Embrace it. Do not run from the obstacle. Conquer it. Do not fear failure. Use it, because every setback, when endured with discipline, becomes a raw material of success. And here lies the ultimate secret. Demand is not made with words. It is made with persistence. Anyone can shout their goals into the sky, but only the persistent carve them into reality. Life will deny you again and again, not to break you, but see if you have endurance to outlast denial. How many times did Edison fail? Thousands. How many times did Lincoln lose elections before the presidency? Dozens. How many times did Disney face rejection before the world saw a single castle? Too many to count. And yet, they demanded. They persisted. They refused to accept anything less than the vision they carried. And so I ask you again, bro, what is your demand? Will you crumble when denied? Or will you rise again and again, until life itself has no choice but to hand you the crown you refuse to stop reaching for? Persistence is the armor of kings, the weapon of conquerors, the heartbeat of every man or woman who has ever risen above the ordinary. Without it, every dream dies in its infancy. With it, even the most impossible vision becomes inevitable. The world belongs to the persistent. It belongs to those who demand, endure, and advance long after the crowd has surrendered. You see, most people quit not because they are incapable, but because they are unwilling to pay the price. They confuse temporary defeat with permanent failure. They meet resistance and assume it is a sign to stop, when in truth, resistance is proof they are on sacred ground. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "Every adversity, every failure, Every heartache carries with the seed an equal or greater benefit. That is not poetry. That is a law. But most never live long enough in a furnace to see that seed grow. They escape the heat. They retreat from the fire. They abandon the demand the moment the first storm appears. Look at history again. Look at the names written in gold. They all live this truth. Colonel Sanders, at 65 years old, broke, rejected, walking door to door with a fried chicken recipe, was told no over 1,000 times before one man finally said yes. That yes built a global empire. That yes turned ashes into fortune. But the yes never comes without the persistence to face 1,000 no's. Do you understand now? Persistence is the proof that your demand is not weak. Persistence is the signature of your soul on the contract with destiny. It says, I will stand here until life moves. I will push until the walls fall. I will not break, no matter how long it takes. And here's the paradox. Persistence is not fueled by willpower alone. It is fueled by vision. When your demand is clear, when your purpose is burning in your chest, persistence becomes natural. You do not have to beg yourself to keep going. You are pulled forward by the gravitational force of destiny. Picture a mountain climber on the face of Everest. Every muscle screams. Every breath burns. The cold cuts into his bones. But why does he keep climbing? Why not quit? Why not descend to comfort and safety? Because the vision of the summit is more powerful than the pain of the moment. The vision is the magnet, the anchor, the light that commands persistence. So if you struggle with persistence, bro, the problem is not discipline. It is clarity of vision. You cannot endure endless rejection for a goal that doesn't set your soul on fire. You cannot suffer for something you do not truly love. That is why most people quit. They are chasing a vision that never belonged to them. They are chasing society's approval, their parents' expectations, their peers' applause. But the man who knows his own demand, the man who burns with his own purpose, will never quit. Because quitting would mean betraying himself. This is why purpose is not optional. Purpose is a furnace where persistence is forged. It is the reason behind the sacrifice, the justification for suffering, the North Star in the storm. And yet, purpose is not discovered by accident. It must be demanded. It must be hunted with intention, cultivated with reflection, chosen with courage. You do not stumble into meaning. You claim it. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. He could have lived a quiet life as a preacher, safe, respected, ordinary, but he demanded purpose. He chose to carry the burden of justice. And when hatred spit in his face, when prisons tried to silence him, when bullets threatened to erase him, persistence kept him standing because his purpose was larger than his pain. Bro, this is what most people miss. They demand comfort, and they get weakness. They demand ease, and they get mediocrity. They demand acceptance, and they get chains. But the rare ones demand purpose. They demand growth. They demand freedom. And for them, persistence is no longer a choice. It is a necessity. Now listen carefully. Resilience is the twin brother of persistence. Persistence is the will to keep going. Resilience is the power to rise after falling. You will fail. You will stumble. You will be betrayed, disappointed, doubted, ridiculed. And in those moments, your demand will be tested not by your ability to keep climbing, but by your ability to stand back up when you've been crushed. Edison once said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That is resilience. That is the mindset of a man who refuses to give the enemy of doubt the final word. When Henry Ford's first two automobile companies collapsed in failure, he could have retreated to obscurity, but resilience pulled him back into the fire. He rose again and again until the Model T changed the world forever. Resilience is not about avoiding pain. It is about transforming it. It is about taking the blow, absorbing it, and turning it into fuel. Like the blacksmith who hammers iron to steel, life will hammer you again and again. The weak metal shatters. The strong bends, absorbs, and grows harder with every strike. So let me ask you, when life strikes you, do you shatter or do you become steel? Resilience is the muscle of the soul, and like every muscle, it is built through resistance. If you never face trials, you will never know your strength. If you never fall, you will never learn how high you can rise. Most people fear hardship because they misunderstand it. They believe hardship means something is wrong, when in truth hardship means something is being forged. A sword is not created in a pool of calm water. It is created in the fire, beaten by the hammer, sharpened against a stone. That same process is happening to you. Life is not trying to break you. Life is trying to sharpen you. The men and women we admire, most were not spared from pain. They were carved by it. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. Yet when he walked out, he did not carry bitterness. He carried vision. He understood that resilience is not only survival, it is transformation. And here's the key. Resilience without adaptability is incomplete. To be resilient means to rise after being knocked down. To be adaptable means to rise wiser, sharper, more strategic. Because life will not always answer your demand in the way you expect. Sometimes the path is not straight. Sometimes the door you are pounding on never opens. In those moments, the weak man curses fate, but the strong man adapts. He finds another path, another angle, another way forward, because the demand is too strong to die. Think of water. Water is the most adaptable force on earth. It can flow gently, or it can crush mountains, block its path, and it finds another. Freeze it and it becomes solid as steel. Heat it and it becomes unstoppable vapor. Yet through every change, it remains water. That is adaptability, the ability to transform without losing your essence. When Henry Ford was told the automobile would never replace the horse, he adapted his approach. When Walt Disney faced bankruptcy after bankruptcy, he adapted, learning from every mistake until his vision stood tall in castles and screens across the globe. Bro, adaptability is not betrayal of your dream. It is loyalty to your demand. It says, the vision remains, but the method may change. If the path is blocked, I will create a new road. If the market rejects me, I will refine my gift. If the world is not ready, I will prepare until it is. This is where most break. They confuse stubbornness with persistence. Stubbornness is demanding the result in one specific way. Persistence is demanding the result no matter what it takes. And adaptability is the wisdom that bridges the two. So you must ask yourself, when life closes a door, do you stand there banging until your knuckles bleed? Or do you look for the window, the side entrance, the secret passage that no one else has noticed? Because the truth is, opportunity rarely arrives in the form you expect. The universe often disguises blessings as obstacles, fortunes as failures, beginnings as endings. Only the adaptable can see through the disguise. And here lies another principle. Faith. Without faith, resilience crumbles. Without faith, adaptability turns into desperation. Faith is the anchor that holds you steady when the storm rages. Faith is the voice that whispers, keep going. This too shall pass. What you demand is already on its way. Understand this, bro. Every man who achieved greatness carried faith like a shield. Lincoln had faith that a divided nation could become one, even when blood covered the land. Edison had faith that light would shine, even when the darkness mocked him. Jobs had faith in beauty and simplicity, when the industry told him it was impossible. Faith is not blind hope. Faith is not wishful thinking. Faith is a decision. It is a demand placed on your own spirit, saying, I will believe, even when I cannot see. I will trust, even when I cannot touch. I will walk, even when the ground beneath me shakes. Because here is a paradox of life. The world will only give itself to those who believe in it first. You cannot wait to see the evidence before you act. You must act with faith, and then the evidence appears. That is why Napoleon Hill taught the principle of faith applied. Not faith as a passive feeling, but faith as a weapon. Faith as fuel. Faith as action. And when faith combines with resilience, persistence, and adaptability, you become unstoppable. You become the kind of person life itself must obey. Because you no longer approach life as a beggar with hands open. You approach it as a creator with hands building. You no longer wait for the conditions to be perfect. You create the conditions. You no longer hope for opportunity. You demand it. You seize it. You adapt until it bows. So hear me clearly. Demand is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is aligning your mind, your body, your soul with the law of growth, the law of persistence, the law of faith. And when you align with these laws, life bends in your favor because it must. Faith is the seed, but visualization is the water that brings it to life. Every man who has ever created something from nothing first saw it in the invisible theater of the mind. Before there was a light bulb, Edison saw the glow. Before there was an empire, Carnegie saw steel cities rising. Before there was Disneyland, Disney saw kingdoms of imagination where the world only saw swamps. The mind is the workshop of destiny. It is where every fortune begins and where every failure is born. You are living today inside the architecture of the thoughts you built yesterday, and you will live tomorrow inside the structure of the thoughts you build today. So let me ask you, bro, what picture are you holding in your mind? Do you see yourself victorious, powerful, abundant? Or do you see yourself trapped, defeated, small? Because the images you repeat will carve themselves into reality. Napoleon Hill called it autosuggestion, the principle that your subconscious will always move you toward the image you feed it most. That is why the successful live as visionaries. They see the future before anyone else can. They rehearse their victories in the silence of their imagination long before the world applauds them. And because they have lived it inside, they refuse to be denied outside. Visualization is not fantasy. It is rehearsal. The mind does not know the difference between reality and imagination. When you see it, feel it, and believe it as if it already exists, your entire being organizes itself to make it real. But visualization without gratitude is incomplete. Gratitude is the soil that keeps the roots of your vision alive. Gratitude transforms struggle into strength, pain into wisdom, delay into preparation. Without gratitude, your vision rots into entitlement. But with gratitude, every step, even the hardest, is seen as progress. Gratitude does not mean passive acceptance. It does not mean settling for less. It means recognizing that even your trials are shaping you into the person worthy of the vision you demand. Think of Helen Keller, deaf, blind, cut off from the world. She could have cursed her condition, surrendered to despair. Instead, she embraced gratitude for the teachers, the lessons, the light she found in darkness. And through that gratitude, she became a symbol of resilience, a woman whose words still ignite souls today. Gratitude unlocks resilience. It reframes the storm as training, the loss as lesson, the obstacle as opportunity. And when you combine gratitude with visualization, faith, and persistence, you become undefeatable. Now hear me closely. All of this leads to one final law, the law of mastery. Life does not reward the half-prepared. It does not crown the distracted, the lazy, the inconsistent. Mastery is a demand for excellence in every detail. It is a relentless pursuit of improvement long after the applause has faded. Michelangelo said, "If people knew how hard I worked to gain my mastery, it would not seem so wonderful at all." That is the truth of greatness. Behind every genius, every leader, every fortune, there are years of invisible labor, endless refinement, countless repetitions. Mastery demands patience. It demands humility. It demands that you sharpen your craft until it cuts through doubt itself. And when you reach mastery, the world cannot ignore you, because true mastery makes you indispensable. So I ask you, will you settle for average, or will you demand mastery? Will you live as a dabbler, distracted, half-committed? Or will you walk the path of the masters, willing to sacrifice comfort for excellence, mediocrity for greatness? Because here's the truth, bro. All of these principles, faith, resilience, adaptability, persistence, gratitude, mastery, they are not separate. They are one. They form a chain of power that cannot be broken. And at the center of that chain is your demand. You become what you demand from life. If you demand nothing, you will get nothing. If you demand little, you will live small. But if you demand greatness, if you demand growth, if you demand freedom, if you demand that your life be a living testament to what is possible, then life will bend. Slowly at first, violently at times, but inevitably it will bend. So stand tall. Speak your demand not with your lips, but with your actions. Carve it into the world with your persistence. Shape it with your adaptability. Strengthen it with your resilience. Fuel it with your faith. Paint it in your visualization, protect it with your gratitude, and crown it with mastery. And when the years pass, when history looks back on your name, they will not say you wished or hoped or begged. They will say you demanded. And because you demanded, you became.